Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name is Clint Button and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 42 of the virtual stone carving apprenticeship. Alright, got the bulk of the material on the top here removed. Still got a little bit of dressing to do to get it down to the line and get everything trued up pretty well. We'll do that and we'll cut these checks, start our bevel and get the top half of this bevel before we flip it over to work this bottom on. It's coming really well. Don't have any big losses to deal with. We've got edges that need to be resolved everywhere, which is normal. That's the plan. That's why there's still a little extra material on. We'll get this all worked down and try to get these squared up, because we're reaching the point now where as we finish the face, we're going to have to leave it. We'll have some final abrasion to do at the end to tighten everything up, but the rest of this, the bulk of the material is gone, and we'll be able to waste the rest of this off and get it pretty close. And there's our priority in terms of dimensions is getting these center panels straight and flat and down to dimension, because we're going to waste off a lot of the side here. This a little bit of crown here and here isn't as big a deal because we're going to eliminate that. So we want to make sure to focus on our central portion. We're not worried about these edges and how square or not square they are, because we're going to tune all that up at the end all together. So let's start cutting stone. Wanted to get a little bit of video right here. I've already done these facets and almost finished. I got this side dressed pretty well. I got this face dressed pretty well. I wanted to show you the way this panel's cut. These sides with the abrasive, where I'm working them down, you can see these are obviously higher because I'm still not touching this pencil line in the center. And so that's what you want. You work down, we've got this plane pretty well established, and anything if I can leave that, that's my goal. So we're working this down, and then I'll finish cleaning these up. I've got this really close. I've got to abrade a little more here to get this trued up. And then we're gonna make an executive decision. What we're going to do is we're going to use this straight edge that's a 1-inch straight edge, and it's approximately an inch. It's really close. We're going to put this on, and we're going to use those bottom lines as they look good around it, and we're going to strike a line underneath each of them, because we're supposed to go down here 1 inch. And the goal is to have it even all the way around. So even if it's, and it would be better if it's a little fat right now, because we'll dress it down to closer to that 1 inch. But we're going to get this smoothed up just a little bit more here, a little bit more here. We're going to cut this in. We're going to knock this 45. We'll draw our line on it. We'll cut this back to our 45 in the center. As we start, we'll work these two. We may not do the 45 yet. We got to get these flattened up as well. But this is what we're trying to accomplish, is to get rid of this extra material here from the margin. Get this down. Really tight, really close to 3 inches. We draw this in, finish that up, looking great. Now when you're doing these facets with your stone, this has got to be used just as accurately as you'd use a chisel. Keep it dressed, keep it square, keep it clean, and don't just rub it random. Accurate, flat strokes with pressure in just one direction. And don't let it rock, because you'll end up rounding these facets off, and all the work you've gone through to make them accurate and straight will be lost. And you also don't want it rocking and then have it pop a corner off. That's not good. And once you get all your flats pretty even, where they agree on your corners, and you can strike your line all the way around. And they'll match. And I understand everybody's perfect and good, but hand cut stuff has always got a little wiggle to it. So you have to make things match. Get it where it needs to be. And that's what makes it look handmade instead of machine made. Just keep cutting. Double check your model. See if it looks any better. Still hard to see. Once you get these knocked down, it changes the way that it looks a lot. Takes away a lot of the mass, makes it look a lot more delicate. Okay, these are put together. They're not down to the line or flat yet. I'm going to leave them a little big because I want them to meet here. We got to have a really nice miter line right there. This is another facet. So this has to be finished to this line, just like this has to be finished to this line. So now that these are roughed in, we're going to go ahead and push this flat. We'll go ahead and do these top ones and make it right. And then when we get down, I know we waited and did all these around. If we do these top three that way, remember what I said before? Nobody's going to lay down on the ground and look at the very bottom of this to make sure these are perfect. Okay, we want them to be perfect, you know, as close as we can get them. But if you're going to have a mismatch, having it underneath here, down, you know, 20 inches, 18 inches off the ground on the underside, that's where to have them. Nobody's ever going to see it. So we could go ahead and cut this, get these top ones all put together before we do anything else here. Then we can have this whole upper half done. As you're resolving everything, take a nice straight chisel. These facets are kind of easy because the chisel's bigger than the facet, so it's pretty easy to get them flat. Go through and true them up really well so they're flat. The last thing you want is for the facets to have contour to them. You want to be as flat as possible. And if you can't see it, dress them just a little bit and see where they're not straight. And if you need to tune them up with the chisel, go ahead and do that and get them really put together well, get them all evened out, and then we can go ahead and lay out our lines to cut our ends. Just go slow. Point, it's more important that things agree with tangent elements than with neighboring elements, because if you've got something here and here and you're going to chase it until the end of time, because you'll get this one a 32nd smaller, then you cut this one and it goes a 32nd or 64 smaller, and then this is an 8. Just, you got to, at some point you got to quit. So start matching them up so that they match with what they're tangent to, and call it good enough. Show what you can do, what you can't do. It takes time to get good at this. You just got to keep practicing. But once this is laid out pretty well, dress them, and then we'll mark these. We'll cut this last one. Now we're getting to the point where the detail really starts to show in all the facets. This is why straight lines matter. This is why even things matter. So we got the top all done, basically from the center up. May have a couple edges to touch, but beyond that, I'll play with the light and see how it looks. It really looks pretty good. You just have to go slow and develop it so things are even, things are straight, things are parallel. And then the cumulative effect is really good. Now what we're going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is lay it down. I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom of it and get that done before I take off any more mass. Then we'll go ahead and waste this off in here, probably up through here, waste this off on both sides and get this bottom done and work the shaft. And I think we're probably just going to put a 45 come up, probably maybe a little bit bigger than this, because this is 1 inch and we want it to look just a little bit bigger. So if it's 1.25 inches and then another 1/2 inch, and that'll look very pendant and it should look really good. And, getting close. This is soft enough that I don't really need to use an impact, and the carbide will cut it just fine, so I'm just using the carbide. And I'll keep it relatively square, checking it a couple directions with my combination square. Okay, the bottom's all drilled. We're going to start working this in. We'll work it in probably from both sides at the same time, trying to keep the mass the same. This is just smart work practices. As you get further along, you've got all these corners and edges that'll break if they bump on something or if they're pressured on something. We're still working this stone, so clean up your workspace. Get rid of all your chips, keep everything swept up, Anything the suction is not pulling out, get rid of the gravel, get rid of the chunks. Make sure that your pads are clean. And remember, real easy, you got a small piece of stone you're passing around, don't knock it on the ground and break it. Stuff like that can happen. So don't do it. Slow down, be careful. I've got it roughed out down to about the thickness of this web, this 1-inch face. I'm going to turn it up on edge. I'm going to carefully work it in, flip it over, work it in. Just go. This is when it gets real, because this is catastrophic failure if you don't do it right. You got to learn how much energy you can put into the stone. At this point, anything I cut should come off really easy. If I try to take too much and it doesn't come right off, I'll break the stone. So I want to go slower. Probably going to use more with a small machine for some of it. But I have to be careful because I don't want to put too much energy in and stress the stone. I want to go ahead and just work it down. I'll just work this down like I did the other one, just like I did up here. And technically it's still sitting on the same stone, just there's not quite as much support here. Just go careful. You'll find that doing this, working with the right machine, whether it's a short stroke machine on soft stone or a full stroke machine on hard stone, you'll take off stone a lot more efficiently. And that's really the key to having the right tools to do this. Because if you don't, the energy you put into this with a long stroke or full stroke machine, that wouldn't be good. So good. Alright, I'm going to wrap up for the day. Start on this in the morning. Get these bottoms straightened out. Still got to go over the whole thing at the end. Sharpen up the lines, make sure things are pretty straight. A couple things need to be pushed in and moved around. Pretty happy with it so far. All right, gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Make sure it doesn't get too long. Just do the next video to finish this cross. So we'll pull this one to a close. I have had some comments about dust collection, and so I want to bring that up just to touch on it. Marble in general, okay, in generalized terms, you can do whatever you want. You wear a bag over your head, whatever kind of filter you need, it's up to you. Marble is typically not as dangerous to breathe as granite. Granite is silica. Silica dust, it's permanent, it's glass, it doesn't metabolize. Marble's calcium carbonate, as long as it's clear. And it's not as fatal, it's not as much of an issue because your body can handle a certain amount of the dust. When you're working on a project where you're not stationary, a lot of my granite projects that I work on, I'll set up and I'll carve in a very finite area for an extended period of time. And so it's very effective to either have your dust collection, your suction, oriented right to that area, or to wear a mask. One of the reasons I don't wear a mask and skip the suction is that you see a lot of people on the computer that are doing whatever they're doing, and they've got they work inside this whirlwind of dust, and some of them are carving granite like that. Now the problem is all that dust, it gets in your hat, your hair, your clothes, your skin, it gets all over you. They used to have safety posters at the old granite sheds, you know, decades ago, early OSHA stuff, that instructed the workers not to blow themselves off with an air hose at the end of the day because of the amount of ambient silica dust it would create in the air. It would just saturate the air, and the stuff that's so light that it floats around in the air for an extended period of time is the very deadly dust that gets deep into your lungs as you breathe. And so they would actually fine workers. They had actual penalties where they would fine them money. You know, it might be 20 bucks or 50 bucks or whatever if a supervisor saw you blowing yourself off, because it creates a more dangerous work environment. If you don't blow yourself off and you go get in your car and you sit down, all that dust gets in the upholstery on the car, get in the dust of your old vehicle, pat the seat, and you'll see the dust all come around in the sunlight when it looks just right. Or it'll get in the cushions at the house or in the laundry so your wife breathes it. So the dust collection is important. And it depends on what you're working on. When I'm working on a project where I move around a lot, there's a lot of physical movement around, I'm more apt to wear a mask to try to limit the amount of granite dust that I'll breathe. And I'll try to have suction. Sometimes I'll have 2 suction booms and set up so that it captures the dust better. You got to think about it. But anyways, take care of yourself. Wear a mask all the time if you want. You know, but when you see people that are working in a cloud of dust, you know, they'd be a lot smarter to have a mask on and something that directed the dust away from them very well, like one fan on one side and one on the other, so that creates an airflow past the project. And then you got to think of where it's going, if it's going to cycle back to you or not. So just be careful, be prudent, get educated. Don't think you just know everything. Go out and study it and understand what the different dust and the different stones produce. And if you're going to wear a mask, wear a P100 or forget it, because if it's not a P100, it's a waste of time. You're just filtering out the big stuff so the perfect dust can get into your lungs even easier. My name's Clint Button here at Carolina Sculpture Studio with the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.